My name is Evan. I'm 28, and after my divorce, I had nowhere else to go. So I moved into my grandfather's old house, far outside a quiet town, surrounded by nothing but thick woods. He had passed away years ago, leaving the place behind. It was old. The kind of house where the floors creak even when you're standing still, and the doors never fully close. No matter how warm you set the temperature, it always felt cold inside. Still, it was free, and I didn't have any better option. The first few nights felt normal, quiet, almost peaceful. I'd sit outside on the porch, listening to the wind brushing through the trees, sometimes hearing an owl in the distance. No cars, no people, just silence. I thought maybe this was exactly what I needed. A place to reset, to be alone. But on the 7th night, something changed. I woke up suddenly, not sure why. The house was completely silent, too silent, and then I heard it. A slow, heavy sound, like footsteps, coming from somewhere inside the house. At first, I told myself it was just the wood settling. Old houses make noises, right? But this was different. It sounded deliberate, like someone was walking, slowly, carefully. I held my breath, listening. The sound stopped. Then, it came again. Closer this time. That's when I realized something that made my chest tighten. I hadn't locked the back door that night. I had just gotten into bed around midnight, barely drifting off, when I heard it, whistling. Soft at first, coming from somewhere outside. It wasn't a melody I recognized, just a slow, broken tune, off-key in a way that made my skin crawl. It sounded like someone walking through the woods behind the house, casually whistling in the dark. I told myself it had to be a hunter, or maybe some drunk neighbor passing through. Still, something about it didn't feel right. The next night, it happened again. Same time, same strange tune, but this time, it was closer. I sat up, my heart already beating faster, and turned on the porch light. The yard lit up, empty and still. No movement, no shadow, just silence. I grabbed a flashlight and stepped outside, slowly scanning the trees, expecting to catch someone hiding or running off. But there was nothing. No footsteps, no broken branches, no sign anyone had been there at all. Only the whistling, fading deeper into the woods, like it was leading me somewhere I shouldn't go. After that, I tried to ignore it. For the next few nights, I stayed in bed, pulling the covers over my head, pretending it wasn't happening. But it always came back, every single night, at exactly 1:17 a.m. And each time, it sounded a little closer than before. I know it sounds random, but it wasn't. Every single night, it happened around the same time, somewhere between 1:15 and 1:19 a.m. Like clockwork. That's when it started getting into my head. This didn't feel like coincidence anymore. It felt planned, like someone knew I was out there, alone. After a few days, I couldn't take it anymore. I called the sheriff's office. An older deputy came out. I'll just call him Deputy H. He looked like the kind of man who had seen everything. But when I told him about the whistling, he didn't laugh. He didn't brush it off. He just went quiet. Then he said something that made my stomach drop. He told me my grandfather used to call them about the exact same thing. Late at night, someone whistling around the property, always during the same time of year. They never found anyone. He said he used to think it was just old age, but now that I was hearing it too, he didn't sound so sure anymore. That's when it really hit me. This wasn't new. This had been happening long before I ever stepped into that house. Before leaving, he told me one thing: keep the doors locked and don't go outside after dark. After that, I didn't take any chances. I locked everything, every door, every window. I checked them twice, sometimes 3 times before going to bed. But deep down, it didn't feel like locks were going to stop whatever was out there. One night, I even pushed chairs under the doorknobs, like that would somehow keep it out. But it didn't matter. The whistling kept getting closer, every single night. Then it got worse. One night, it came from behind the shed, loud, way louder than before, like whoever or whatever was making that sound was standing right there. I grabbed my flashlight and slowly peeked through the blinds, barely breathing. But there was nothing. No movement, no shadow. Still, I couldn't bring myself to step outside. The next night, it was on the front porch, right outside my door. 3 long, slow whistles, then silence. I didn't move. I didn't even breathe. I just stood there in the dark, staring at the door, waiting for something to try and come in, but nothing did. And then, The night after that, it came from under the floor. I swear, it sounded like someone was crawling beneath the house, whistling up through the vents. Slow, broken, right beneath my feet. I didn't sleep at all that night. I just sat there, frozen, listening, until the sound finally stopped just before sunrise. The next day, I couldn't ignore it anymore. I went up into the attic, digging through old boxes, hoping my grandfather had left something behind, anything that could explain this. That's when I found his journals. He had written about the whistling, said it came every spring for over 10 years. And according to him, it never stayed outside forever. He never figured out who or what it was. But in his journals, my grandfather wrote that he always felt watched, like something stayed just out of sight, waiting. He even started sleeping with a rifle by the front door, just in case. What really got to me was that he said it only started after my grandmother died, when he was completely alone. That part didn't feel like a coincidence. I called Deputy H again. This time, he read through the journals himself. I watched his face change as he turned each page. He didn't say much, just handed it back and told me to be careful. Then he looked me dead in the eyes and said, "Don't open the door, unless you know exactly who's on the other side." That night, I didn't even try to sleep. I sat on the couch, holding a shotgun I barely knew how to use, just waiting, staring at the clock as it crept closer to that time. 1:17 a.m. Right on time, the whistling started again. But this time, it wasn't outside. It came from the hallway, inside the house. My body locked up. I couldn't move. The hallway was completely dark, but I could hear it, that same broken tune, slowly getting closer, step by step, like something was walking toward me, just out of sight. I forced myself to stand, hands shaking, raising the shotgun toward the hallway. My voice barely worked, but I managed to shout, "Who's there?" The whistling stopped instantly. Silence. I reached for the switch and flipped the hallway light on. There was nothing there. No one was there. After that, I didn't sleep at all. 2 nights passed, and the whistling stopped completely. No sounds, no movement, nothing. But instead of relief, I felt worse. Sick, anxious, like something was building. I kept telling myself this had to be a real person. Not my mind, not something paranormal. Someone was doing this. Someone had been watching this house long before I got here. Then, just like that, everything went quiet for 2 full days. I almost convinced myself it was over. On the 3rd night, I went to bed just after midnight. I didn't stay up this time. I was exhausted. I left the hallway light on, just in case, like that would help. And then, 1:17 a.m. I woke up instantly, but this time, it wasn't whistling, it was knocking. Slow, deliberate knocks. 3 of them. They came from inside the house, from the back door. Then, silence. I didn't move. I just lay there, staring into the dim light, listening, every nerve in my body screaming not to make a sound. A minute later, I heard it. A creak, then another. Slow, heavy footsteps coming from the hallway. And then, the light went out. My heart started pounding so hard I could barely hear anything else. I grabbed the shotgun and stepped out of my room, every step feeling heavier than the last. The hallway was completely dark now, but at the far end of it, I saw something. Someone, a figure, dressed in black, standing perfectly still. Their face looked pale, almost too pale, just barely visible in the darkness. They weren't moving. They were just watching me. I tried to steady the shotgun, but my hands wouldn't stop shaking. My throat felt dry, like I'd forgotten how to speak. Finally, I forced the words out, "Don't move." For a second, nothing happened. Then slowly, the figure lifted one leg, turning slightly like it was about to run. "Stop!" I shouted, but the moment I said it, it moved. Fast. It darted out of the hallway, disappearing from sight. A second later, I heard loud, heavy footsteps rushing through the house, then the front door swinging open into the night. I ran after it, adrenaline taking over. I burst outside into the darkness and fired a shot straight ahead. Not into the air, but into whatever was out there. "Don't come back!" I screamed into the empty woods. But deep down, I knew it never really left. The shotgun blast rang in my ears, echoing off the walls and the deck like the house itself was shivering. I locked everything up tight, jumped into my truck, and drove straight into town. That night, I slept in the cab, unable to even think about going back inside. The next morning, Deputy H came out to check. When we reached the house, the front door was unlocked. Somehow, whoever had been inside had a key. Nothing was broken, nothing was missing, but that simple fact made everything real. Someone had been living in the shadows of that house for longer than I could imagine. Deputy H quietly told me to change the locks immediately, and off the record, he suggested I leave. He didn't say it outright, but it was clear. Someone in those woods didn't like either my grandfather or me being there. I went straight to the local hardware store and switched the locks that same afternoon. After that, I left. I drove out of state to stay with my parents, leaving it to my dad to eventually sell the house. We took anything of real sentimental value, leaving the rest behind or selling it. My father, of course, didn't mention the decades-long stalker lurking in the shadows of that old place. Whoever it was, how they got a key, why my grandfather never told anyone, I'll never know. The thought still chills me. I like to tell myself it was just a disturbed neighbor, someone living nearby and obsessed with the house. But the experience left me too shaken to ever live somewhere so isolated again. That house, those woods, they stay in my mind, a reminder that some things, some people don't belong in the light.